Hello, travelers. Boardman21 here, and today got a build for you. It's going to be LizardIRL'S new BowMage build, which takes advantage of the unique Reign of Winter and just absolutely annihilates endgame with massive damage and very zoom-like abilities. And I've even got him here so he can go over it, and we're going to discuss the pros, the cons of it, and he's going to discuss the leveling process, how long it took for him to do it, and then kind of move on how to get everything that you need for it, and then in the end tell you how far he made it in the arena and in empowered content and how it felt. So without further ado, here's LizardIRL.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
All right, Lizard, let's go ahead and discuss how was the leveling process with this build?
Well, the build needs the unique Reign of Winter, which you can get for defeating regular heroes at the Age of Winter monolith, which is the level 91. So obviously I was playing SSF softcore for the weekend tournament, so I didn't have the bow till I get there, like around level 70 or something. So until then I was just playing my regular Detonate Arrow build that I think you covered before too. So I was just playing that, but you could level with any build. You could level with Bleed Puncture, with Hail of Arrows, with Multishot, whatever you want to do. And when you get to the bow, the good stuff starts happening for sure.
Yeah, we saw some clips that some massive damage was being output by this thing, which is really cool that builds like this are still being found. So you were also wearing the MorningFrost boots. You want to talk about those for a second?
Yeah, so what you need to run the build is just the bow, the Reign of Winter. And with that, you're going to be able to do most of the content, and you're going to be fine, and your DPS is going to be fine, and you're not going to be... The build is going to be completely functional. But I wanted to go big boom. So obviously, it's a very famous interaction. Many people have used this before, right? MorningFrost to get the cold damage. And I wanted to go full crazy on this. Like my character had 80 dexterity with my gear. And obviously that's 80 cold spell damage and for your attacks and your spells. Icicles is a spell, so you basically give it 80 flat damage, which is massive, obviously. And the downside of this is that for every point of dexterity, you're going to have 1% less cold and physical resistance. So if you want to be able to run a setup like mine, you're going to have to be pretty good at gearing. You're going to need to know where everything needs to go, because you're not going to have that many room for gearing your defenses, because obviously you're going to need to spend so much on cold and physical resistance. So if you want to min-max the build, 100% you're going to need these boots, and you're 100% going to spend some time gearing properly. But you can run it without it, you can chill, and the build will be completely functional. You will just don't do as much damage, but it will be enough damage regardless.
Oh yeah, you were doing some massive damage. How many arena waves were you able to push this?
Well, on the tournament, I was playing without decoy, because the decoy was banned for the tournament to see how much people can push without it. And I did 404 waves. I lacked, honestly. The build can go way higher, and if you use decoy, well, at the safety that decoy provides for those scary situations where you spawn chargers or something. So I mean, this build just does so much damage that as long as you play perfect and you don't get hit by things, which is obviously going to take quite a bit of skill, you definitely have the DPS to push whatever you want. Yeah, in the arena especially.
And you got to there in just 4 days. That's all this tournament was, right? Massively, yeah, you were playing a lot, but...
Yeah, I play a lot. Some days I was playing 18 hours, so I play a lot. Yeah, you can. I mean, and I'm very experienced, right? I have 4,000 hours in the game. I know how to gear. I know my stuff. So obviously, if you want to get a setup like mine and you're a beginner, it's gonna take you a bit longer. But you could run it just with the bow and some basic gear, and you're gonna have fun with it, and you're gonna clear monolith without any problem. A very interesting thing about this build is I noticed that in arena, my killing time in high waves was actually increasing instead of decreasing. Because the tankier the trash mobs are, the more hits I do, and the more icicles I proc. So it was this weird thing where the tankier the enemies were, the more I was proccing my stuff, and the more armor shred and the more shred I was able to apply. So it was really funny. Like I was killing like golems at wave 300 faster than at wave 100, just because I could like just proc so many times. And I think it's just one of those weird builds that we had before, like Soul Fist and stuff, that actually scale with density and with hard content, which is really nice. So it's definitely a unique build. It's really weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun to play. And then the last question for you, through the leveling process and then into empowered content and the arena, how would you overall feel for like tankiness of the build? How did it feel to play? Was it tanky or was it squishy?
The build is really squishy. I mean, Marksman is really squishy as a general, unless you're playing something like Hail of Arrows, which has some defensive perks. You could make this a bit tankier than what I'm playing. Like if you equip like the Glancing Blow Quiver, for example, you could actually be pretty reliably capped on Glancing Blow. But I wanted to go full DPS. I'm playing softcore. Who cares? I just wanted to go big boom, like I said. But it's really squishy. You need to play around with your shift immunity. You need to play around with the smoke bomb dash shroud for the guaranteed dodge. For if you're facing any scary mob like that. I was using dodge on potion, which with this setup you have so much dexterity, so much increased dodge, that you can actually get like to 50% dodge on potion without any investment in dodge other than dexterity. But it is squishy. It is tricky to play. It's pretty high APM, and it requires a lot of knowledge because you're gonna be using Detonating Arrow for AOE, which it's pretty straightforward. But at some moments you're gonna need to like channel Flurry to do the big single target damage. And obviously, if you're not familiar with what mobs do, how much they took time to cast their abilities and so on, you're gonna be casting Flurry in the wrong moment and you're gonna die. So with enough knowledge and with enough practice, you can push 400 waves without decoy. So it definitely works. But it is squishy. It is squishy.
All right, that sounds like a good deal. It looks like a super fun build. Can't wait to play it myself. But it's going to be time to get into the build and tell everyone about the interactions, the skills, and get into all those details. So thanks for coming on today and talking about. Hopefully, it gave our viewers a good idea of what to expect.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me, Boardman, and I hope you guys enjoy it. It's it's cool. So yeah.
For skills, I'm running Detonating Arrow, Shift, Smoke Bomb, Multishot, and Flurry. For Detonating Arrow, we have this set up to fire in a cone instead of a single arrow that will instead have an arming time. This will disable the arming time. It'll also mean that the projectile will now fire in a cone. It will pierce through the enemies and the explosion happens behind, which means lots and lots of hits. We'll also have the tendrils, which will go out, and there'll be up to 8 of them, which will also be doing hits, which also count as bow hits, and all of those hits all will proc an icicle coming from your Rain of Winter bow, which is just going to be lots and lots of damage. Now, while Detonating Arrow hits itself won't do a lot of damage, your bow hits themselves won't do a lot of damage, it's the fact that all of them will proc so many icicles, which will be doing lots of damage, that you are essentially a mage bowman, because you're doing spell damage with this build, and you'll be proccing a lot of spells or icicles, doing all of the damage for you. So we just want to get as many hits as possible, which means huge AoE, hitting as many enemies as possible with it, piercing, and of course, tendrils. So we've got 2 points in quick detonation, 3 points in weak spot. Now, we're not building into any critical strike in this build. What you want to do is get as much critical vulnerability chance as possible. And you can get that inside of the detonating arrow tree as well as inside your passives, and you'll be doing so many hits that within the first 1 or 2 shots, you're going to already have 100% crit against that enemy, even though you didn't build into critical strike chance at all. We also have 1 point in barrage. This changes it from a circle detonation to a cone area. No arming time. It just means more hits, but it's going to be directional instead of circle. But again, it's going to be more hits because you're always firing towards where the mobs are. And if you round up enough mobs and fire, you're not only going to have FPS drops, there's even a chance you could crash yourself from how many procs you're going to do. So be a little careful with that. 4 points in fast shot for the increased attack speed. 4 points in arcing blast. This is going to increase the maximum targets you can have with the lightning tendrils. It's just going to be more and more hits. And then 3 points in outburst gives a bigger explosion area. 1 point in beast slayer arrow increases the explosion damage. Not really worried about that. It's that this unlocks the arrow of delay, which means that the hits you do with detonating arrow reduce enemy movement speed by 24%. Now what's great about this is you're going to reduce their move speed with this. You're also going to put chill on them. You're also going to put slow on them. So they're going to be slowed down massively, which means that with your move speed, you can kite very high into the arena and high into the empowered content because you can outrun the enemies. For shift, we have this set up for the huge amount of dodge that you can get whenever you shift. Of course, you get the mana back. You also get momentum. And then, of course, if you take a big hit, there's a chance to take the cooldown off so you can shift again. So you want to be shifting around a lot. This is a fast-moving build. You're really going to try and kite mobs, move really quick, and then take out large groups or take things point blank and then get out of dodge before you can get hit. So we've got 4 points in swift recovery, 3 points in momentum, 1 point in shadow slip, 5 points in elusive, 3 points in shadow recuperation, 2 points in breath technique, and 1 point in rebound. For smoke bomb, the main purpose of this is that it's going to give you a lot of dodge. You're going to be able to use it to stack those dust shrouds, get lots of dodge, get lots of glancing blow, and this is going to increase your survivability. Now, this will also slow the enemies, and it's also going to give you more chance to shred armor on hit, which is always going to improve your damage and be more effective. So we've got 1 point in thick smoke, 1 point in eroding fumes, 1 point in impending gloom, 1 point in shrouded in darkness, 4 points in rapid concealment, 4 points in generosity, 1 point in escape tactics, and 5 points in lingering fumes. Something to be said about smoke bomb, you can change this tree around. I do recommend that you keep the 5 points up here for that dodge rating and glancing blow, but the rest of the points you can switch it to how you like to play it. For multi-shot, we have this set up so that you're going to be able to hit the enemy with all of the same projectiles. You're going to have a chance to pierce. There's going to be a chance to proc it when you use other skills. And you're going to be able to just get lots and lots of hits with it. The reason we go for pierce is you want those extra hits. You're not really going for damage with multi-shot. Now, multi-shot will crit. It will do decent damage. But it's the fact you just want to get as many hits, as many projectiles, as many pierces as possible so that you can proc as many icicles as possible with the Rain of Winter. So we've got 2 points in quick draw, 2 points in true strikes, 2 points in large quiver, 1 point in giant slayer. This means that all the projectiles can hit the same target. What's awesome about this is when you're channeling Flurry, you're already getting hits, hit procs multi-shot, and you're right in the face of something, you're going to get so many hits right there. You're going to proc an icicle for every one of those hits. If you've got 12 projectiles and you have the Flurry projectile, you're talking 13 hits all at once, which then procs 13 icicles all at once. That is 26 hits on the enemy, which just absolutely annihilates single target. You'll see in the gameplay, just absolutely takes down high health mobs extremely quickly. Not to mention you're applying massive amounts of shred and resistance shred on that hit. It's just crazy. We also have 3 points in piercing shots, 1 point in back-to-back, 2 points in repeater bow, 1 point in efficient draw, 4 points in bodkin's points, and then 1 point in readied arrows. So there's a 5% chance on any other bow tech, including detonating arrow, that you will proc multi-shot. Nothing better than when detonating arrow goes off, a multi-shot is procced. It's just a massive amount of hits that you're getting right there, and a massive amount of icicles. And what's awesome about that is you have the pierce chance in here, so if you have a whole bunch of trash mobs, like I said, it's going to pierce. It's just crazy. You see that in the gameplay. It's a great build. And then for Flurry, we have the setup to channel multi-shot and just to have as much attack speed as possible. So we got 3 points in Alacrity, 2 points in Relentless, 3 points in Adrenaline Rush, 4 points in Inexhaustible, 2 points in Strained Reflexes, 1 point in Boundless Blows, 1 point in Accelerating Impact, 2 points in Pavés, 1 point in Fusillade, and 1 point in Arrow Storm. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce those ones. Those ones got me. For passives, we have this set up to just basically stack as much dodge and as much dex as possible while getting some damage and of course that critical strike avoidance and critical strike vulnerability inside the passive tree. So in the rogue class we've got 30 points, we got 8 of them in Swift Assassin, 8 of them in Steady Hand, 4 points in Guile, 5 points in Evasion, and 5 points in Agility. Now if you find yourself really squishy, which can happen if you don't have enough dodge, there are some things in this build that you can change. You can get Glancing Blow on your quiver, and you can build into Glancing Blow here, because we do have some glancing blow that we're going to get out of the Bladedancer tree as well. So you can get above 50% glancing blow, which will help you survive a bit, as every other hit that you take will do 35% less damage. It can help protect you. But here we're just going for as much dodge and as much damage as possible, and you'll see that if you watch Lizard's video as well. He's really just building into the damage. We're in softcore, no big deal if you die. We got 8 points in Bladedancer. All 8 points go into Cloak of Shadows, again for that dexterity. The reason for all of the dex stacking, again, it's going to give you increased damage for the Rain of Winter for those icicles. It's also going to give you +1 cold damage thanks to the boots. So that's added and increased damage per point of dex, which is technically double dipping, but it's awesome. Then we got 75 points in the Marksman with 8 points in Draining Arrows, 8 points in Focus Fire, 1 point in Assassin's Quiver, 10 points in Woundmaker. This means that you'll get 100% critical strike vulnerability chance on every hit that you do. And what that's going to do is increase the chance to critically strike with your next hit. Now, when you get 16, 20, 30 hits all at once on an enemy because you procced Multishot, you procced all the icicles, you procced a Detonating Arrow, you get all of those hits. With that many stacks of critical vulnerability on an enemy, by the time you do your next attack, you're already at 100% crit chance. It's just like that. We got 5 points in Heightened Senses. This is for that critical strike avoidance. You can stack this 35% as long as you get decent average rolls with 2 tier 5 critical strike avoidance on your gear. You can get 100% with only using 2 affixes. We've got 5 points in Concentration, 4 points in Meditation, 8 points in Reflection. This is going to give you a lot more dodge rating, move speed, damage while you have Concentration active. Very helpful for the build. 1 point in Arrow Storm, 1 point in Covering Fire, 10 points in Ethereals for that mana regen. You are going to want a lot more mana regen. The reason for this, it does get pretty expensive. All your skills are going to cost mana, so you're going to find yourself sometime if you spam them too much, you're going to have to run around a little bit. So the more mana regen you have, the less you'll ever have to run around. And then 2 points in Master Archer. This gives Multishot more projectiles, which means more procs, because those can all hit the same target. Those all have a chance to pierce. That's just going to mean more icicles. And then for the increased Detonating Arrow explosion, bigger area means more enemies hit. Then we got 1 point in Barrage of Pain, 5 points in Perfect Aim, 5 points in Sharpshooter, and 1 point in Death from Afar. For idols, items, uniques, blessings. So for the idols, basically the 1x3s that have increased damage while wielding a bow are going to be most effective. That's going to increase the damage that your bow attacks do, as well as the icicles do, since it's increased global damage. You can also get chance to shred armor on bow hit on these. And then for your 1x1s and 1x2s that you can fit in there, dodge rating, resistances that you're missing, any of those. Some of the 1x3s or 1x4s you can also put in if you're not too worried about damage. You can get health on Glancing Blow, you can get health on dodge, you can get increased dodge if hit recently. Lots of ways to stack even more dodge to make it less likely to get hit. And then of course, if you're missing some resistances, which a lot of your resistances will be based on blessings, so you're going to not, be capped on your blessings, or you're not going to be capped on your resistances until you've got into the right blessings, which can make it kind of hard to min-max the build, but you can get there. And then for the uniques, we do have the Rain of Winter, obviously. This can be farmed from the Age of Winter timeline, level 90 timeline, up towards the top. It's on the right side, does not have to be empowered. Pretty easy to get. I believe it's the 85% drop rate one, so you can definitely get it within your first couple of tries on that timeline. And then the MorningFrost boot. These are random drops that you can get anywhere in the game. You can also gamble for them. And again, these are going to make your resistances drop, so I would focus on getting the resistances through your blessings before putting the boots on. But once you put these on and you have 80 plus dex, your damage is basically going to double at that point. And then for crafted items, I'm just going to hover over all of these really quick. I'm definitely going to hover over the quiver because for some reason the offhand in all build guides recently does not load. We're going to have to talk to Dammit about that. Not sure what's going on, so I'm just going to hover over it here for an extra second just to make sure that you can come back to this and see it. And then hover over the rest. Again, these will all be in the build planner, which will be in the description below as well as in the written guide. And this build planner is just slightly different than Lizard's. A link to his video will also be in here so that you can check it out. He is the build creator of this. I am just giving it a little bit more publicity as people have been asking for it. And then for blessings, these are not all min-maxed, but as we go over these, you can get some critical strike multiplier. This is where you'll get your lightning resist. And then, of course, you can also get all resist if you don't want to get your critical strike avoidance from the Reign of Dragons or the Emperor Corpses when you kill him. And then you get a little bit more cold resist here, as well as you can get some endurance here. So some of your resistance is covered. You have some of your all resist, you have cold, and you have lightning resist. And this is where you get it. Without those, without the extra cold here, and without putting lots of physical on your gear, if you put MorningFrost boots on, there's a good chance you're going to go negative with physical and cold resist if you have a lot of dex. So be careful with that. For the character sheet, as you can see, I have just over 1400 health. I've just kind of thrown this build together. We do have 86 dex. You can see I am nowhere near capped on resistances, but it is possible. I haven't done any blessing farming. I don't have the most optimal gear on this character. Definitely go by the build planner. That's what you're going to want to do. But you can see here with that 86 dex that we're just barely above on the physical, as well as our cold has been highly reduced. But you can get that 10 to 20% increase of all resist from the Emperor of Corpses. That would help here, and then also the lightning from the Lagon would cap that out, as well as give us above 60% on everything except for physical. I need one more tier 5 affix on my gear for physical, and we would be nearly capped on everything. For armor, we're sitting at about 13%, and then for dodge, we have about 45%. And here you can see that it's definitely possible to get lots of dodge. Now that's 45% without doing anything. If I were to throw down smoke bomb and we had a couple of dust shrouds come onto us, you can see you easily jump above 50, you even get above 60, and then of course on a shift, you get to that 85% cap. So definitely gave up some of the resistances so that we could have much higher dodge just passively, but again, you are going to want to get your resistances up. Most of them that I don't have are all from the blessings that I haven't gotten yet. For damage, you can see we're sitting pretty high on damages. We're at about 380%. Most of that's global. The reason this is slightly higher than Lizard's is in his stream is because on this character we have a lot more global in our passives. We took higher concentration, put more points there, and that's what's going to bring it up quite a bit higher. Now, how this build works. For skill rotation, basically, what I like to do when I play it is I like to put Smoke Bomb on autocast as well as Shift. Now, Shift is one that's kind of questionable. You kind of want to do it when you need it. Same kind of thing with Smoke Bomb, but I like having Smoke Bomb always going off without thinking about it, so that if I need to, I can shift back into the cloud, get some more extra dodge, and be extra protected. The other thing is, you're never going to really cast Multishot manually. You just don't. So if you want to put a different skill here, you can do an unspec'd decoy, which is what I'm going to show you right now, because you're not going to use Multishot. It's just being procced through Flurry. So by doing that, you can get some taunt out there. This is a banned skill from the Churney that Lizard didn't use, and it's not in his build guide, but definitely throwing decoy into this, especially on spec, since you can throw it in here for basically free, is going to help with survivability when there's a tough mob, a tough boss, or something going on, especially like Orbis, which can be a bit of a struggle, to help keep the focus somewhere else while you attack. And then for the damage, it's really simple. So you'll notice if I attack with Detonating Arrow, that there was no crits. We have only, what is it, 8% crit chance. Really, really low crit chance. But what's going to happen here is if you attack with Flurry and have Multishot go up and you have all the icicles, you're going to get to that 100% crit extremely quickly. So just watch how fast this happens. We're going to attack with Flurry real quick. Boom, we're already at 100% crit. 100%. It took less than 2 seconds. So against bosses, single targets, you're going to have that crit within just 1 or 2 attacks because of how many stacks of that critical vulnerability that you're applying. So here you can see that basically what you want to do is you're going to use Detonating Arrow from a distance, and that's going to allow you to get that big cone shape, get lots of hits. When you get in the face of things, that's when you start using Flurry, and Flurry's going to proc that multi-shot, all the projectiles can do hits, all the hits do the icicles, and you can see you're just getting massive, tons amounts of damage. Again, from a distance, you really want that Detonating Arrow going in there. You can see how you get the hits, and then the cone shape comes after. If you do attack in the face with Detonating Arrow, same thing, the cone comes out after, allowing you to get lots and lots of hits. Detonating Arrow does hit harder than Flurry does, but both of them are interchangeable, so you just kind of go with where you need. Now, while channeling Flurry, you will lose mana while using Detonating Arrow, as long as you're not spamming it too much, and you have a lot of mana regen, which you want to have about 17 plus mana regen, so to make sure to get at least 2 tier 5, possibly 3 tier 5 mana regens to really help with that. And really the build's that simple. You're just going to run around, and you're just going to attack, and within a couple of hits, you'll have that 100% crit. You can use Multishot for huge AoE. It's also going to, proc it. Multishot or Flurry with it is going to be what does huge single target damage, and the Detonating Arrow is also really good for single target, but it's also much better for AoE while not losing all of your mana. But you just go back and forth, play with them as you want. huge damage being procced here. So as Lizard stated earlier, and as he states in his video, the build can feel quite a bit squishy, and the reason for that, you're dependent upon dodge. So what you can do to avoid this, if you're having problem getting your resistances up and you don't have a lot of dodge, you're obviously also not going to have 100% critical strike avoidance. So the easiest way to cover that early game until you can really gear up is just put on the woven flesh. There's nothing on your chest that's absolutely mandatory for the build. Yes, a well-crafted chest with dodge rating increase, health increase, and dex on it is going to be great, but you don't need it, and you're probably not going to craft it right off the bat. So throw on the woven flesh. Easy to get that from Abomination at level 55 timeline. Just absolutely put that on, get your 100% critical strike avoidance, get some extra leech. It's going to help you really early on until you can craft it, and that's even what Lizard did during his leveling process, was throw it on until he had some well-crafted rings that had tier 5 critical strike avoidance on it, and then he flipped over. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. Hope it was easy to follow. Hope you guys liked the introduction with Lizard talking about it a bit. Give him some publicity. Give him some credit for making a really fantastic build. It's actually made me like the Marksman again, so I'm already really enjoying it. It just feels really good. It feels great to just absolutely annihilate things, even take out bosses really quick. And of course, having that little bit of squishiness so that you're always kind of living on the edge feels good as well. There will be a link to his video in the description below, so be sure to check it out. And as always, stay safe, travelers, and enjoy some gameplay.